clothing department mannequins are in different positions every morning. I know because I'm the one who sets them up before I leave at 6 a.m., and when I come back at 10 p.m., they've moved. Not just turned slightly or knocked over, completely repositioned. Different outfits, different poses, different facial expressions, even though they're plastic and shouldn't be able to change expressions at all. Last week, I set up a mannequin in the women's section wearing a red dress, arms at its sides, facing the mirror. The next night, it was in the men's section, wearing jeans and a hoodie, one arm raised like it was waving. Same mannequin. I checked the serial number on the base. My name is Derek Winters, and I've been working overnight stock at the Target on Polaris Parkway in Columbus for 8 months now. The pay is better than day shift, $18.50 an hour plus shift differential, and I needed the money after my divorce. Most nights it's just me, 2 other stalkers, and Brenda, the overnight manager, who spends most of her time in the back office doing paperwork and pretending she can't hear us blasting music through the PA system. The store closes at 11 p.m. By midnight, it's just us and 140,000 square feet of retail space that feels different when all the customers are gone. The promotional music that loops during the day cuts off, leaving only the hum of refrigeration units and the occasional click of the automatic doors testing their sensors. Last night, I decided to watch the security footage to see who was moving them. I scrubbed through 8 hours of tape, watching the mannequin I'd placed by the dressing rooms. For 7 hours and 43 minutes, nothing happened. Then, at 4:47 a.m., it moved. Not someone moving it, it moved on its own. Its head turned slowly toward the camera, smooth and fluid like a person turning to look at something. Its arms lowered to its sides. It took a step forward, then another, walking with a stiff but purposeful gait toward the children's section. I watched it walk out of frame, and then I heard something behind me. The sound of plastic scraping against tile. When I turned around, every mannequin in the store was standing in a circle around my office. 32 of them, all facing me. And the one in front, the one from the footage, tilted its head and smiled. I didn't know plastic could smile like that. That's when Brenda walked in with the employee handbook. The real one. The one they don't give you during orientation. Brenda didn't look at the mannequins. She kept her eyes on me, her face blank. She was holding a binder with a red cover, not the standard blue one from corporate. "You saw the footage," she said. Not a question. I couldn't speak. Behind her, the mannequins stood motionless now, their faces neutral again. Ordinary. Except I could still see that smile burned into my mind like an afterimage. "Come with me." She turned and walked toward the break room. The mannequins parted for her, a gap opening in their circle. I followed because the alternative was staying alone with them. The break room smelled like burnt coffee and the sandwich someone had microwaved 3 hours ago. Brenda sat at the table and opened the binder. Inside were laminated pages, the kind that had been printed and reprinted so many times the edges were yellowed. "I've been the overnight manager here for 6 years, Brenda said. Before that, it was Tom Rickenbacker. Before him, Janet Liu. They all knew. Everyone who works nights long enough learns. Learns what? She slid the binder across to me. At the top of the first page, in bold letters, Overnight Protocols, Columbus Polaris Location. Read them. Follow them. Don't ask me why, because I don't know. And the people who did know aren't around to explain anymore. She stood up. You've got 15 minutes before your shift starts. The others already know the rules. They'll notice if you don't follow them. The others? You mean Marcus and... I mean the others. Brenda cut me off. Her voice was sharp. Read it, Derek. All of it. She left. The door swung shut, and I heard her footsteps fade down the main aisle toward grocery. I looked down at the binder. There were 7 rules. Rule 1. Between 12 a.m. and 12:07 a.m., walk the entire perimeter of the sales floor. Do not skip any section. Do not run. If you hear footsteps behind you, do not turn around until you complete the full loop. Rule 2. The mannequins in women's clothing must remain in their designated positions from 1 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. If you find one out of place, return it to its original spot before 2:30 a.m. Do not make eye contact while moving them. Rule 3. If the electronics department television wall turns on by itself, change every channel to static. Count to 30. Turn them all off. Leave the department immediately and do not return for 20 minutes. Rule 4. Never enter the walk-in freezer alone after 3 a.m. If you must retrieve something, bring another person and keep the door propped open. If the door closes anyway, do not attempt to open it from inside. Wait, someone will come. Rule 5. If you hear your name called over the PA system, ignore it. Your name will never be called during overnight shifts. If a coworker claims they heard someone calling for you, deny hearing it and change the subject immediately. Rule 6. At 4:45 a.m., a customer may enter through the front doors despite them being locked. This customer will browse for exactly 7 minutes. Do not approach them. Do not speak to them. Do not watch them leave. If they speak to you first, respond only with, "We open at 8 a.m., and walk away. Rule 7. Before you leave at 6 a.m., return to women's clothing. Count the mannequins. There should be 8. If there are 9, find the one that doesn't belong and move it to the stockroom. If there are 7, check the bathroom stalls. Bring it back before you clock out. At the bottom of the page, someone had written in pen, "Don't ask about the storage unit in the back corner. It's locked for a reason." My watch read 11:47 p.m. I had 13 minutes before I needed to start my perimeter walk. Through the break room window, I could see part of the sales floor. The overhead lights created pools of brightness separated by stretches of shadow near the end caps. I heard something from the clothing section, a soft, scraping sound, like plastic feet dragging across linoleum. The mannequins were moving back to their places. I grabbed my scanner gun from my locker and headed out onto the floor. Marcus and the other stalker, a college kid named Tyler Brennan, were already working in grocery, unloading a pallet of cereal boxes. They looked up when I passed, and Marcus gave me a nod. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," I lied. "Stick to the protocols. You'll be fine." He went back to stacking Cheerios. My watch read 11:58 p.m. I walked toward the front of the store, where my perimeter loop would begin, and tried not to think about what might start following me in 2 minutes. The store felt larger at night. Every aisle stretched longer, every corner darker. I could hear the refrigerators humming in grocery, the occasional thunk of Marcus's box cutter, and underneath it all, something else. A sound like breathing that didn't come from any specific direction. Midnight hit. I started walking. I started at the front entrance, where the automatic doors stayed shut now, their sensors dark. The red bullseye logo on the windows reflected back at me, doubled and distorted in the glass. Outside, Polaris Parkway was empty except for the occasional car passing by, headlights sweeping across the parking lot. The perimeter walk meant following the outer edge of the sales floor, past the registers, along the back wall through electronics and toys, across the rear stockroom entrance, then up the far side through home goods and seasonal before circling back to the front. A complete loop. I kept my pace steady, not too fast. The rule said, not to run. The first section was easy. The front area still held traces of the day's customers. A shopping cart someone hadn't returned, a clothing tag on the floor near the accessories wall. I passed the Starbucks counter, its metal shutters pulled down, and heard my footsteps echo off the tile. Then I heard other footsteps behind me, matching my pace. My hands tightened around the scanner gun. The rule said not to turn around. I kept walking. The footsteps continued, steady and even, about 10 feet back. They didn't speed up or slow down. They just followed. I reached electronics. The TV wall was dark, 12 screens reflecting nothing but my distorted silhouette as I passed. The glass cases holding phones and tablets gleamed under the overhead lights. Everything looked normal. Everything sounded wrong. The footsteps behind me had changed. Now they were lighter, quicker, like someone had switched from shoes to bare feet. I walked faster, not running. The rule was clear about that. But my legs wanted to move, wanted to sprint toward the back wall and get this walk over with. The toy section opened up on my right, aisles of boxed games and stuffed animals, creating corridors of shadow between the displays. Something moved in aisle C4. I saw it from the corner of my eye, a shape shifting between the shelves low to the ground. I didn't stop. The footsteps behind me were closer now, maybe 6 feet back. I could hear breathing, ragged and wet, like someone had been running for miles. The back stockroom entrance appeared ahead, its double doors mark employees only. The perimeter walk didn't go through there. I needed to pass it and continue along the back wall. As I drew level with the doors, they rattled. Someone was pushing from the other side. The metal buckled slightly, and I heard a voice, muffled and distorted. "Derek? You out there?" It sounded like Marcus. Almost. The tone was right, but something about the cadence was off, like someone imitating him from memory. I kept walking. Didn't answer. Didn't look back. The rattling stopped. The footsteps behind me stopped too. I was in the home goods section now, passing shelves of towels and bedding. The silence felt worse than the sounds. I could hear my own breathing, harsh in my throat. My watch read 12:03 a.m. 4 more minutes. A mannequin stood at the end of the aisle. It hadn't been there during my shift yesterday. This one was male, wearing khakis and a polo shirt, positioned like it was reaching for something on a high shelf. As I approached, I noticed the clothing. The polo was red, Target colors. It was dressed like an employee. I walked past it, giving it wide berth. Its face was turned away from me, looking up at the shelf. The name tag pinned to its chest read, "Jeremy." There was no Jeremy on night shift. There never had been. If you like the stories, please hype the videos from a button like this just above the comment section. It helps the videos to get more reach and perform well. It would take just a few seconds and cost nothing, but would help the channel grow even faster. Thank you. The footsteps started again behind me. Multiple sets now. At least 3. They whispered to each other in voices too low to make out words, but I caught fragments. Inventory. Aisle 7. Manager said. I was near seasonal now. Halloween decorations had been replaced with Christmas stock. Fake trees still in boxes, strings of lights, inflatable Santas waiting to be assembled. The back of store smell hit me here. Cardboard and plastic wrap, and that specific warehouse mustiness that never quite went away. 2 more minutes. The whispering grew louder. I risked a glance at the polished metal of a shelf support beam, trying to catch a reflection of what was behind me. The surface was too scratched and dull, but I thought I saw shapes. Multiple figures. They moved like people, but something about their proportions was wrong. Too tall, or too thin, or bent in ways that suggested joints in different places. I turned the corner into the front section. almost done. The registers were ahead, their conveyor belts still, their screens dark. My watch read 12:05 a.m. The footsteps were right behind me now. I could feel breath on the back of my neck, cold and stale like it had been held in dead lungs. The customer service desk came into view, then the front entrance. I reached the starting point at 12:06 a.m. and stopped. The footsteps stopped. I stood there, counting seconds in my head. At 12:07 a.m., I turned around. Nothing. The store was empty. The aisles stretched away into distance and shadow, but there was no movement, no figures, no one following me. My shirt was soaked with sweat. I pulled out my phone and checked for messages. Maybe Marcus or Tyler had texted. Maybe this was some kind of hazing ritual for new night workers. But there was nothing. Just the time, 12:08 a.m. I walked back toward grocery, where Marcus and Tyler were finishing their pallet. They both looked up as I approached. "Perimeter walk done?" Marcus asked. "Yeah." "Good." "Listen, Derek, don't go wandering off on your own tonight, all right? Stay in whatever section you're working. If you need something from another department, grab one of us first." He went back to scanning boxes, his scanner gun beeping rhythmically. Tyler was younger, maybe 21, with the kind of face that suggested he'd rather be anywhere else. He pulled his earbuds out. "You get used to it," he said. "The first few weeks are the worst. After that, your brain just accepts it, I guess." "Accepts what?" He shrugged. "That some jobs have weird requirements. My buddy works at the casino down on Main Street. He's got rules, too. Different rules, but same idea. You follow them, you keep your job, you don't ask questions." Marcus checked his watch. "It's 12:43. You're on clothing tonight, right? Better get over there before 1 a.m. You remember Rule 2? I nodded. The mannequins needed to stay in their spots from 1 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. If I found one out of place, I had to move it back before the window closed. "I'll come with you," Marcus said, "just to walk you through it the first time. After tonight, you're on your own." We headed toward women's clothing, our footsteps echoing in the empty store. The department opened up before us, racks of dresses, displays of jewelry, and against the back wall, the 8 mannequins in their designated positions, except there weren't 8. There were 9. Marcus swore under his breath. "All right. We need to find the extra one and figure out where it came from. You check the left side, I'll check the right. Don't look at their faces while you're counting. Just look at the base numbers." Why not look at their faces? He was already walking toward the first mannequin. Because sometimes they look back. I started on my side, reading the serial numbers stamped on the bases. M2847, M2851, M2903, each one exactly where it should be according to the floor plan taped to the wall. But when I reached the last mannequin in my section, I noticed something. It wasn't on a base. It was standing on its own feet, balanced perfectly without the metal support stand, and it was wearing a red polo shirt with a name tag that read, Derek. "Marcus!" My voice came out strangled. "Marcus, look at this!" He crossed over to my side, his scanner gun clattering against his belt. When he saw the mannequin, he went still. Not the kind of still where you're thinking, the kind where your body forgets how to move. The mannequin stood between a rack of clearance sweaters and a display of handbags. It wore the exact red polo shirt and khakis I'd put on this morning. The name tag was mine. The same scratched plastic clip, the same faded letters. Even the slight coffee stain on the collar matched. "That's new," Marcus said quietly. "New? What do you mean new?" I mean, I've been here 6 years and I've never seen one wearing a current employee's uniform. Former employees, yeah, but not. He stopped. We need to move it. Now. Before 1 a.m. My watch read 12:54 a.m. 6 minutes. How do we know this is the extra one? I asked. What if one of the original 8 is missing and this is... It's not on a base, Derek. Look at it. It's standing on its own. Marcus pulled a box cutter from his pocket and pointed at the other mannequins. Every single one of those has a support rod going through the foot into a weighted base. This one, it's just standing there. He was right. The other mannequins had visible seams where the metal rod entered their feet. This one's feet were solid, complete. Where do we move it? I asked. Stockroom. There's a section in the back where we keep the broken ones and the seasonal displays. Come on, grab its arms. We'll carry it together. I didn't want to touch it. The thought of putting my hands on plastic that looked like me, dressed like me, made my teeth ache. But Marcus was already gripping the mannequin under its left shoulder, so I grabbed the right side. The plastic was warm, not room temperature, not the cool smoothness you'd expect from a department store dummy. It was body warm, like it had been standing in sunlight or near a heater. I almost let go. Don't look at its face, Marcus reminded me. Just walk. We lifted it, surprisingly heavy, and started toward the stockroom entrance. The mannequin's arms hung at its sides, swaying slightly with our movement. Its head lolled forward, chin nearly touching its chest. We passed Tyler, who was organizing a display of protein bars. He glanced over, saw what we were carrying, and immediately looked away. Time? Marcus asked him. 12:56. We walked faster. The stockroom doors were ahead, the kind that swing both ways with a small window at eye level. Through the window, I could see the rows of metal shelving units, the pallets of unsorted freight, the narrow corridor leading to the back offices. Marcus shouldered through the doors. I followed, struggling to keep my grip on the mannequin. The stockroom was cooler than the sales floor, and it smelled like corrugated cardboard and that chemical scent of shrink-wrapped plastic. There. Marcus pointed with his chin toward the far corner. Past the toy pallets. There's a fenced-in area where we keep the broken fixtures. We maneuvered around stacks of boxes, past a pallet of kids' bikes still in their packaging. The overhead lights back here were dimmer, placed further apart. Shadows collected between the shelving units. That's when the mannequin's hand moved. Not a swing or a jostle from our carrying. Its fingers spread apart slowly, like someone testing their grip. I felt it happen against my arm. Marcus, dash. I know. Keep moving. We're almost there. The fenced area appeared ahead, a chain-link cage about 10 feet square. Inside were broken shelf brackets, cracked display cases, and 5 other mannequins in various states of disrepair. One was missing both arms. Another had a shattered face, leaving a jagged hole where its features should be. Marcus kicked open the gate. We carried the mannequin inside and set it down against the far wall, arranging it among the broken ones. As soon as we let go, it slumped forward, head hanging, arms limp. Is it? I started. Out! Marcus grabbed my shoulder and pulled me toward the gate. Out, now! We backed out of the cage. Marcus slammed the gate shut and looped the chain through the links, securing it with a padlock from his pocket. The whole time I watched the mannequin in the back. It hadn't moved again, just sat there, collapsed and harmless. My watch read 1:02 a.m. We made it, I said. Marcus didn't answer. He was staring past me, his face pale. I turned around. The stockroom had changed. Where there had been 2 rows of shelving units creating a clear path back to the doors, now there were 4 rows, the aisles between them narrower and darker. The overhead lights seemed dimmer, and at the far end, near the doors we'd come through, I could see figures, people, or things shaped like people. They stood in the aisles, facing away from us. Some wore Target uniforms, others wore street clothes, jeans, t-shirts, the kind of outfit a customer might wear. They were motionless, positioned like they'd been interrupted mid-task. One held a box. Another reached toward a shelf. "Don't run," Marcus whispered. "Walk normal. Stay close." We started toward the doors. As we moved, I tried not to look directly at the figures, but in my peripheral vision, I could see details. The one holding the box had a name tag, Janet. The one reaching for the shelf was wearing a red polo shirt with a name tag that read, Tom. Janet Liu. Tom Rickenbacker. The previous overnight managers Brenda had mentioned. We were halfway to the doors when one of the figures turned its head. Not the whole body, just the head, rotating smoothly until it faced us. Its features were plastic smooth, the face of a mannequin, but the eyes were wrong. They were empty sockets, deep and dark, but I had the distinct impression they were watching us. "Keep walking," Marcus said. More heads turned. One by one, the figures redirected their attention toward us. Their bodies stayed frozen in their original positions, but every head swiveled to track our movement. The silence was total, except for our footsteps and my breathing. We reached the doors. Marcus pushed through first, and I followed, nearly tripping over the threshold in my hurry. The doors swung shut behind us, and suddenly we were back in the sales floor's harsh lighting and familiar sounds. The refrigeration units. The distant hum of the HVAC system. Tyler was waiting near the registers. "You guys good?" "Yeah," Marcus said, but his hands were shaking. "Derek, listen to me. The stockroom after 1 a.m., you don't go back there alone. You understand? Not for any reason. Not if someone calls for you. Not if you hear something fall. Not if Brenda herself tells you to. You wait until 2:30 when the window closes." "What are those things?" "I don't know. No one knows. But there are more of them every year. The cage keeps them contained, mostly. As long as we follow the rules, they stay in there." He checked his watch. "It's 1:08. We've got until 2:30 before we can move freely again. Stick to the floor sections assigned to you. I'm on grocery, Tyler's on electronics, you're on home goods tonight. Actually, scratch that. You're staying with me. I'm not letting you wander around your first night." We headed toward the grocery section. The store felt different now. Every aisle, every shadow, every display could be hiding something. I found myself checking the faces of the mannequins we passed, making sure they weren't watching us. At 1:47 a.m., the television wall in electronics turned on. All 12 screens blazed to life at once, casting flickering blue light across the department. Tyler had been organizing phone cases nearby. He saw it happen and started walking toward us. "Rule 3, he called out. "I need someone to come with me." Marcus grabbed my arm. "You're about to learn why we don't work alone at night." We followed Tyler back to electronics. The televisions were all tuned to different channels, news, infomercials, static, an old movie. But they hadn't been connected to any cable boxes. They shouldn't have been able to display anything at all. "You know what to do?" Marcus asked Tyler. "Yeah, help me change them all to static." We spread out, each taking 4 televisions. I found the remote for the first one mounted on the display pole. The screen showed a talk show. 2 people sitting in chairs having a conversation I couldn't hear. As I flipped through channels looking for static, I noticed something. The people on the screen were wearing Target uniforms, and they were talking about me. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read their lips. The woman was saying my name, Derek. Derek Winters. The man next to her nodded and pointed at something off screen. Found it, I said, switching to the static. White noise filled the screen. Marcus and Tyler finished their sets. All 12 televisions now displayed nothing but static, the sound muted, but the screens alive with visual noise. Count to 30, Marcus said, out loud, all together. We counted. Our voices overlapped and echoed in the empty department. At 30, Marcus grabbed the main power switch and killed the entire display. The televisions went dark. Leave. Don't come back for 20 minutes, Marcus said. We walked toward the front of the store. I glanced back once and saw something reflected in the dark television screens. Figures standing in the aisles behind us, watching. My watch read 2:11 a.m. 19 more minutes before the window closed and the mannequins could move freely again. We spent the next 19 minutes reorganizing the cereal aisle. Marcus worked in silence, his scanner gun beeping at regular intervals as he processed each box. Tyler had returned to his section near the pharmacy. I focused on stacking frosted flakes, trying not to think about the figures in the stockroom or the mannequin wearing my face. At 2:31 a.m., something shifted in the store. I can't explain it better than that. The air changed, like pressure equalizing after a long climb. The overhead lights seemed brighter. The refrigeration units hummed at a different pitch. It was as if the building itself had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. Windows closed, Marcus said. He stretched his back, vertebrae popping. You can move around freely now. Well, mostly freely. Don't be stupid about it. What happens if you break a rule? I asked. Marcus set down a box of Cheerios and looked at me. Really looked at me, like he was trying to decide how much truth I could handle. 6 months ago, we had a guy named Paul Dietrich working night shift. Smart kid, college student, studying engineering at OSU. He thought the rules were corporate nonsense, some kind of psychological test. On his 3rd week, he decided to prove it. Marcus paused. Rule 5. He heard his name over the PA system at 3:30 a.m. Instead of ignoring it, he went to the office to check who was calling him. What happened? We found him in the security office at 6 a.m. He was sitting in front of the monitors, watching footage of himself. Except it wasn't footage from that night. It was him from different angles, different times, showing things that hadn't happened yet. In one screen, he was stocking shelves during a shift 2 days in the future. In another, he was walking through the parking lot next week. And in the center monitor, Marcus stopped. He was attending his own funeral. That's impossible. Yeah, that's what Paul said too. 3 days later, he was driving home after his shift, and a semi-truck crossed the median on 71. He was dead before the ambulance arrived. You think the PA system killed him? I think Paul saw something he wasn't supposed to see, and reality corrected itself. That's the best way I can explain it. The rules aren't here to scare us. They're here to keep us from noticing things that would break our brains if we understood them. He went back to stalking. Anyway, that's why you don't answer when you hear your name, even if it sounds like Brenda, even if it sounds like your own voice calling for help. I helped him finish the cereal aisle in silence. My mind kept circling back to the mannequin in the stockroom cage, the one wearing my uniform. The warmth of its skin, the way its fingers had spread against my arm. At 2:57 a.m., I needed to use the bathroom. I'll be right back, I told Marcus. Employee restroom near the break room. Don't use the customer ones near the front. I headed toward the back, passing through the store's main corridor. The break room sat adjacent to the offices and the time clock, tucked in a corner that customers never saw. The employee restroom was a single-stall affair, fluorescent light flickering when I flipped the switch. I washed my hands and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired. Dark circles under my eyes, face pale from the fluorescent lighting. The red polo shirt hung loose on my frame. I'd lost weight since the divorce, stopped eating regular meals. That's when I noticed the name tag wasn't quite right. The letters were correct, D-E-R-E-K, but the font was slightly off. Too uniform, like it had been printed by a machine that didn't quite understand how human letters were supposed to look. I touched it with wet fingers, and the plastic felt strange, softer than it should be. I ripped it off my shirt. Underneath, there was no pinhole, no mark on the fabric at all. The name tag hadn't been pinned on. It had grown there. I dropped it in the trash and left the bathroom, my heart hammering against my ribs. In the hallway, I nearly collided with Brenda. "You all right?" she asked. She was holding a clipboard and a cup of coffee from the pot she kept brewing in her office. "Yeah, fine. Just tired." She studied my face. "You're not wearing your name tag." "It fell off. I'll get a new one from the drawer." "Make sure you do." "Corporate's doing a surprise visit next week, and they're strict about dress code." She started to walk away, then stopped. "Derek, how are you finding the night shift?" "It's different." Different is one word for it. She took a sip of coffee. "Listen, I want you to know what you saw tonight, what you're going to keep seeing. It doesn't get easier, but it does get more manageable. You learn to partition it, keep it separate from your day life. Some people can't do that. They quit after a few weeks. The ones who stay are the ones who can accept that some questions don't have answers." "What happened here?" I asked. "Why is this location like this?" Brenda's expression hardened. "Finish your shift. Follow the rules. Clock out at 6 a.m. Those are the only things you need to worry about." She walked away before I could press further. I returned to the sales floor. Marcus was waiting near the pharmacy section, and his face told me something was wrong. "We've got a problem," he said. "What kind of problem?" "Come on." He led me toward the back of the store, past the greeting cards and party supplies, toward the grocery section. As we walked, I noticed the temperature dropping. By the time we reached the refrigerated section, I could see my breath misting in the air. The walk-in freezer door was open, not propped open. Fully open, swung wide, revealing the interior darkness and the stacks of frozen goods inside. White vapor poured out like fog, spreading across the floor. "I closed that at midnight," Marcus said. "I know I did. I always check before the shift starts." My watch read 3:04 a.m. Rule 4, never enter the walk-in freezer alone after 3 a.m. If you must retrieve something, bring another person and keep the door propped open. If the door closes anyway, do not attempt to open it from inside. Wait. Someone will come. "We need to shut it," I said. "Yeah, but look." Marcus pointed at the floor just inside the freezer entrance. In the frost that had accumulated on the concrete, I could see footprints, shoe prints leading into the freezer. They were fresh, the edges still crisp and defined. "Someone's in there," Marcus said. "Tyler? Tyler's in electronics. I saw him 5 minutes ago." Marcus pulled out his walkie-talkie. "Brenda, you copy." Static. "Brenda, we've got an open freezer situation. Do you copy?" More static. Then, faintly, underneath the white noise, I heard something that might have been a voice. It was too distorted to make out words, but the rhythm suggested someone speaking quickly, urgently. Marcus lowered the walkie-talkie. We need to close that door, together. Fast. We approached the freezer entrance. The cold bit at my exposed skin, making my eyes water. The footprints led deeper into the darkness, past the racks of frozen vegetables and meat, disappearing into the shadows at the back. "On three," Marcus said. We grab the handle and pull it shut. Don't look inside. Don't try to see where the footprints go. Just shut it. What if someone's actually in there? Then they'll have to wait. That's what the rule says. He counted. 1, 2, 3. We grabbed the handle, cold enough to burn, and pulled. The door was heavy, designed to seal tight, but it moved smoothly on its hinges. As it swung closed, I caught a glimpse of the interior. Someone was standing at the back of the freezer. They were facing away from us, wearing a red polo shirt and khakis. Even in the darkness, I could see the name tag on their back, illuminated by the freezer's interior light. Derek. The door slammed shut. Marcus engaged the lock mechanism, a heavy metal bar that slid into place with a solid thunk. "Did you see?" I started. "No." Marcus cut me off. "I didn't see anything." "Neither did you." We closed the door. We locked it. We're walking away. That's the rule. But I had seen it. Another me standing in the freezer. The third one tonight. First the mannequin in the clothing section, then the one in the stockroom cage, now this. How many of me were in this store? We walked back to the main floor. Tyler was waiting near the pharmacy, his face pale. "Did you guys hear that?" he asked. "Hear what?" Marcus said. "The PA system. Someone called Derek's name. Twice. Said he needs to go to the security office." We all looked at each other. Marcus checked his watch. 3:17 a.m. "Derek," Marcus said carefully, "did you hear your name called?" I listened. The store was quiet except for the usual background sounds. No PA announcement. No voice calling for me. "No," I said. "Good. Keep it that way. Tyler, if you hear it again, you ignore it. Understand?" Tyler nodded, but he kept glancing toward the ceiling speakers mounted throughout the store, like he expected them to crackle to life at any moment. My shift was only halfway done, and I'd already encountered 3 versions of myself that shouldn't exist. I was starting to wonder if I was the real one. The next hour passed in tense silence. We worked our assigned sections, communicating only through brief check-ins on the walkie-talkies. I was reorganizing the seasonal aisle, Christmas decorations that needed to be moved to the front displays, when I found the newspaper. It was tucked between 2 boxes of ornaments, folded neatly like someone had placed it there deliberately. The Columbus Dispatch, dated April 15th, 2025. 6 months ago. Armed robbery at Polaris Target leaves. Employee dead. My hands shook as I unfolded it. There was a photo, grainy security footage showing the front of the store. 3 men in masks. And on the ground, partially visible in the frame, someone in a red polo shirt. I read the article. Derek Winters, 34, was fatally shot during an armed robbery at the Target store on Polaris Parkway early Tuesday morning. Police responded to the scene at approximately 4:47 a.m. after receiving reports of gunfire. Winters, who worked the overnight shift, was pronounced dead at Riverside Methodist Hospital. Witnesses reported that Winters attempted to help a late-night customer who had entered the store minutes before the robbery. The customer's identity remains unknown, and surveillance footage shows them leaving through the emergency exit during the incident. 2 suspects have been arrested. A third remains at large. The newspaper fell from my hands. I staggered backward, hitting a shelf of fake Christmas trees. The article didn't make sense. I wasn't dead. I was here, reading about my own death, but I was alive. I could feel my heart beating, my lungs pulling in air. Except, when was the last time I'd eaten? When was the last time I'd felt genuinely tired? I'd been working these shifts for 8 months, but I couldn't remember a single day between them. Just nights. Just the store. Derek? I spun around. Tyler stood at the end of the aisle, his face illuminated by the screen of his phone. "You finding weird stuff?" he asked. "That happens sometimes. Objects appear that shouldn't be here. I once found a prescription bottle with my name on it for a medication I don't take. Marcus found his high school yearbook in the electronics stockroom, even though he graduated in Michigan. This is a newspaper about my death." Tyler walked closer and picked it up. He read it, his expression neutral. "April 15th. Yeah, I remember that night. It was bad." "What do you mean you remember it?" "The robbery. We were all here, me, Marcus, Brenda, and..." He stopped. "And you?" "I'm standing right here." "Yeah." Tyler folded the newspaper and set it on the shelf. "You are." "Look, man, I don't have answers. All I know is that some of us who work night shift aren't exactly current. We're echoes, maybe, or we're stuck. I don't know the right word for it." "You're saying I'm dead." "I'm saying you work here. That's what matters." He checked his watch. "It's almost 4:30. We need to talk about Rule 6. The customer." He walked away before I could respond. I stood there, surrounded by boxes of Christmas lights and artificial trees, trying to process what he'd said. The newspaper lay on the shelf, my face staring up from the grainy photo. I picked it up and shoved it in my pocket. Marcus was waiting at the front of the store when I arrived. Brenda stood with him, her clipboard tucked under one arm. The entrance doors loomed ahead, their glass reflecting the three of us back at ourselves. 4:43 a.m., Brenda said. "The customer usually appears between 4:45 and 4:47. Sometimes it's a man, sometimes a woman. They browse for exactly 7 minutes. You do not approach them. You do not speak to them unless they speak first. If they speak first, you say, 'We open at 8 a.m.,' and walk away. Do you understand? What happens if I don't follow the rule? The customer doesn't leave. They stay in the store, and they start looking for something specific." Brenda's expression was grim. "They start looking for whoever broke the rule. Has anyone, once, before my time, Tom Rickenbacker tried to help the customer check out, rang up their items, bagged them, even walked them to the door. The customer turned around and walked back into the store, kept shopping. 6 hours later, Tom was found in the break room. He'd aged 40 years overnight, died of a heart attack at his desk. The automatic doors clicked. Their sensors had activated. 4:45 a.m. A figure stood outside in the parking lot. I couldn't make out details through the glass, just a silhouette backlit by the parking lot lights. They approached slowly, and the doors slid open with their usual pneumatic hiss. The customer stepped inside. It was a woman, maybe 40, wearing jeans and a light jacket. She carried a Target shopping bag, one of the reusable ones you could buy at checkout. Her face was ordinary, forgettable. She could have been any customer from any shift, except her eyes were wrong. They didn't blink. They didn't move to focus on anything. They stared straight ahead, tracking nothing, seeing everything. She walked past us like we weren't there. Her footsteps made no sound on the tile. The shopping bag hung from her hand, empty and deflated. "Don't move," Brenda whispered. The customer headed toward electronics. We watched her walk down the main aisle, her gait smooth and even. She paused at a display of headphones, reached out, touched one of the packages. Then she moved on. Marcus checked his watch. 7 minutes starting now. We stood frozen at the front of the store. The customer moved through electronics, then into toys, then toward the back. She picked up items occasionally. A video game, a stuffed animal, a kitchen towel, examined them and set them back down. At 4:49 a.m., she stopped in the middle of the home goods section. She stood perfectly still, facing one of the end caps. Then, slowly, she turned her head toward where we were standing, 30 yards away at the front of the store. "Did she just look at us?" Tyler asked. "Quiet," Marcus said. The customer's head remained turned in our direction for 5 seconds. 10, 15. Then she returned to browsing, picking up a picture frame and studying it with those unblinking eyes. "That's new," Brenda said softly. "She's never done that before." "What does it mean?" "I don't know." The customer continued her shopping route. She made her way through home goods, past the seasonal section where I'd found the newspaper, and toward the clothing department. We tracked our progress through the store by the faint sound of items being lifted and replaced. At 4:51 a.m., we heard something else. Footsteps, multiple sets, coming from different sections of the store. The mannequins were moving. I saw them through the aisles, plastic figures walking with that distinctive stiff-legged gait. They emerged from clothing, from the stockroom, from departments I didn't even know had mannequins. They converged toward the home goods section, where the customer was still browsing. "This isn't right," Marcus said. "They're not supposed to move during a customer visit. That's never happened before." Brenda grabbed her walkie-talkie. "All units, we have a situation. The mannequins are active during Rule 6. I repeat, mannequins are active." Static. Then a voice that might have been Tyler's. "I see them. There are at least 15. They're surrounding the customer." We started walking toward home goods. The rule said not to approach the customer, but it didn't say anything about what to do if the mannequins broke protocol. The customer stood in the center of an aisle, holding a decorative pillow. The mannequins formed a circle around her, all facing inward. They had stopped moving, frozen in their positions like statues. The customer set down the pillow. She looked at each mannequin in turn, her unblinking eyes studying them one by one. Then she spoke. "Derek Winters." Her voice was wrong. Too many tones layered over each other, like multiple people speaking in perfect synchronization. The sound made my teeth ache. "Derek Winters," she repeated. "Where is Derek Winters?" The mannequins turned their heads toward me. All of them, at once, their plastic faces rotating smoothly on their necks, clicking into position until every single one was staring directly at me. "Don't answer," Brenda said. "Derek, do not answer her." But my mouth opened anyway. The words came out without my permission. "I'm here." The customer smiled. Not a human smile, something that stretched too wide, revealing teeth that multiplied behind her lips, rows upon rows of them spiraling back into her throat. "Derek Winters died here, April 15th, 2025, 4:47 a.m., shot 3 times during a robbery. I was shopping. I came in to buy batteries. I left when the shooting started." She tilted her head. "You tried to help me. You told me to run. You saved me." The 3 men in masks. The gun. The customer by the checkout who didn't understand what was happening. Me yelling at her to get out, pushing her toward the emergency exit. The pain in my chest as the bullets hit. The cold floor against my face. The red polo shirt turning darker red. "I'm dead," I said. "Yes," the customer confirmed, "but you haven't left. None of you have. This store keeps you, traps you. makes you work the same shift forever, following rules that don't make sense because your minds can't process what you've become. The mannequin stepped closer. I recognized faces now. Features that belonged to Marcus, to Tyler, to Brenda. Plastic versions of people who were standing right next to me, who were also dead, who were also trapped. The rules, I said. What are they really for? To keep you contained, to keep you functional, to prevent you from realizing the truth and trying to leave. The customer checked her watch. A normal human gesture that looked grotesque, coming from something wearing her skin. My 7 minutes are up. I'm supposed to leave now. She started walking toward the front of the store. The mannequins parted for her, creating a path. At the entrance, she stopped and looked back at me. Derek Winters, you saved my life. So I'll tell you something the others don't know. She gestured toward the mannequins. Every time you follow the rules, you feed them. Every night shift you complete makes them stronger. They're not here to protect you. They're here to harvest what's left of you until there's nothing but plastic and programming. She walked through the doors. They slid shut behind her. The mannequins turned back toward me, 4:52 a.m. My watch read 4:52 a.m., but I knew it was wrong. I'd died at 4:47. I'd been dead for 6 months. I'd been following rules designed to drain whatever remained of my consciousness into plastic shells that would eventually wear my face forever. The mannequin that looked like me stepped forward from the circle. Time to go back to work, it said in my voice. We have until 6 a.m., lots to do before morning shift arrives. Behind it, the other mannequins nodded in agreement. I backed away from the mannequin circle, my legs moving on instinct even though I knew running wouldn't help. Marcus and Brenda stood frozen near the seasonal displays, their faces blank. Tyler had disappeared entirely. I couldn't see him anywhere in the store. Marcus, I said, do you remember April 15th? He blinked slowly. We need to finish stocking. Morning shift arrives at 7:30. They can't see the freight left out. Marcus, we're dead, all of us. That customer just told me. The customer left. Rule 6 is complete. We move on to our regular tasks. His voice was flat, automated. He walked past me toward the grocery section, his movements stiff. The mannequin wearing my face smiled. You're remembering. That's good. Most don't make it this far. Tom Rickenbacker took 3 years before he understood. Janet Liu figured it out in 18 months. You? 6 months. That's fast. What happens now? You have a choice. You can accept what you are and continue working. The shifts never end, but they're predictable, safe. Or, it gestured toward the stockroom, you can try to leave. And if I leave, no one's successfully left. But you're welcome to try. The mannequin tilted its head, an exact mirror of how I'd tilt mine when I was confused. The thing is, Derek, you don't just work here anymore. You're part of the store now, part of its structure. When customers shop during the day, they're walking past fragments of you arranged on shelves. When night falls, those fragments remember themselves and try to be human again. I looked down at my hands. The skin looked real. Lines in the palm, dirt under the fingernails from unpacking boxes. But when I focused, really focused, I could see through them. Translucent, like fog shaped into fingers. How many of us are there? In this location? 43 dead employees over the past 12 years. Some have faded completely. Nothing left but empty mannequins in the cage. Others are still fresh, still clinging to their routines. You're somewhere in the middle. The other mannequins had dispersed back to their sections. I watched one walk into electronics, another into toys. They moved with purpose like employees heading to their assigned departments. Brenda Brenda," I called out. "You were an overnight manager. You died here too?" She was reorganizing a display of kitchen utensils, her hands moving automatically. "Car accident in the parking lot, January 2019. Fell asleep driving home after a double shift. Hit the light pole near the rear entrance." She said it matter-of-factly, like reading a weather report. "Woke up the next night at 10 p.m., clocked in. Didn't realize I'd missed my funeral until I found the obituary in my old office drawer. Why do you keep working? What else is there?" She looked at me, and for a moment her eyes focused, really focused, and I saw terror underneath the practiced calm. "If I stop following the rules, I disappear completely. At least this way I exist. I have purpose. I have structure." Tyler emerged from the pharmacy section, carrying a bottle of pills. He shook it, listening to the rattle. I overdosed in the break room. March 2024. Finals week was crushing me. I thought I'd just take a few pills to stay awake, finish my shift, study for my exam the next day. He set the bottle on a shelf. Took too many. My roommate never even realized I didn't come home. They found me during the shift change, face down on the table. "And you just came back?" "I didn't come back. I never left." He pointed at the floor beneath our feet. "We died on Target property. The company owns us now. Not legally. Reality doesn't work on legal contracts. But we're bound here by something bigger than death. This location is a trap, Derek. It collects people who die inside it and turns them into workers who never quit, never complain, never ask for raises." I thought about the rules, about how specific they were, how they kept us moving through the night in prescribed patterns. Walking perimeters, counting mannequins, avoiding certain areas at certain times. "The rules keep us docile," I said. "They keep us functioning," Marcus corrected, appearing from the grocery aisle with a box cutter in his hand. "Without the structure, we'd realize what we are and break down. The rules give us a framework, something to focus on besides the fact that we're trapped in retail purgatory." I pulled the newspaper from my pocket, the photo of my body on the floor, the headline about my death. "I saved that customer. She lived because I warned her." "Good for you," Marcus said. "Doesn't change where you are now." Something crystallized in my mind. The customer had mentioned a final purchase ceremony, a way to help the mannequin spirits remember their death and find peace by symbolically checking out. If I could make them remember, really remember, maybe we could all leave. "We need to ring ourselves up," I said. They all stared at me. "The customer said we're trapped here because we never left properly. We died during our shifts. We never clocked out, never checked out, never finished what we started. What if we complete the transaction?" "That's insane," Brenda said. "Is it? We follow rules that don't make sense every single night. We watch mannequins walk around and televisions turn on by themselves and customers appear from nowhere. How is trying to check out any crazier than what we're already doing?" Tyler was listening, his expression thoughtful. "What would we even ring up? We're not products, aren't we?" I grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the registers at the front of the store. The others followed, curiosity overriding their automated routines. I activated a register, the screen flickering to life with its familiar interface. In the equipment drawer, I found the pricing gun we used for clearance items. We print tags. We price ourselves. We scan out. I looked at each of them. We complete the final transaction and leave this place like customers, not like dead employees. "And if it doesn't work?" Brenda asked. "Then we're exactly where we started. But I'd rather try than spend eternity restocking cereal and counting mannequins." Marcus set down his box cutter. Tom and Janet are in the stockroom. We'd need them too. Then let's get them. We walked toward the stockroom entrance together. 4 dead employees trying to stage a rebellion against a store that had claimed them. The double doors loomed ahead, and I remembered the figures I'd seen earlier. The previous managers standing in the darkness, wearing their uniforms frozen in place. The doors opened easily. Inside, the stockroom had returned to its normal configuration. 2 rows of shelving, clear path to the back. The overhead lights buzzed softly. The cage sat in the corner, padlocked and still. Inside, the mannequins stood in a cluster. I counted 9 now, the broken ones I'd seen before, plus the one we'd placed there earlier. The one wearing my uniform. "Tom?" I called out. "Janet? I know you're in here." 2 of the mannequins moved. Not the jerky, stiff movements I'd seen before. These moved like people, turning their heads smoothly, raising their arms to gesture. They walked to the chain-link fence and gripped it with plastic fingers. "You shouldn't have come back here," one said in a male voice. Tom Rickenbacker. "It's easier if you forget. Easier if you just work." "I'm not here to work. I'm here to help us leave." Janet Lou's mannequin laughed, a strange sound from a plastic throat. "Leave?" "Derek, we're furniture now. We're store property. There is no leaving." The customer said there was a way. A final purchase ceremony. We symbolically check out. We leave as customers, not as employees. "The customer lies," Tom said. "She's been coming here for years, telling the same story to every new arrival. No one has ever left, because no one has tried together." I pulled out the pricing gun. "I'm going to price myself. I'm going to scan myself out. I'm leaving this store, and I'm offering you the same chance." Silence in the stockroom. The other mannequins watched from inside the cage, their plastic faces neutral. "You'll disappear," Janet said. "That's what happens when you break the pattern. You'll fade into nothing." I'm already nothing. At least this way I'm choosing it. I raised the pricing gun and printed a tag. Clearance. Final sale. I stuck it to my shirt, right over my heart where the name tag used to be. Then I walked back out to the sales floor. 5:14 a.m. Less than an hour until morning shift arrived. Less than an hour to attempt the impossible. At the registers I found the others waiting. Tyler had printed his own tag. Marcus was holding the pricing gun, staring at it like it might explode. "Together," I said. "We all do this together, or it doesn't work." Marcus printed a tag and applied it to his shirt. Then Brenda. One by one, they marked themselves for clearance. The store's lights flickered. The overhead speakers crackled with static. Something in the building was responding to what we were doing. "Scan us out," I told Tyler, who was standing behind the register. "One at a time. Complete the transaction." He picked up the scanner gun with shaking hands and aimed it at my chest. The red laser swept across the clearance tag. The register beeped. Everything changed. The world inverted. That's the only way I can describe it. The store's colors reversed. Red became cyan. White became black. The floor and ceiling swapped positions. I was standing on the ceiling, or maybe falling toward it, or maybe neither. Physics had stopped applying its usual rules. Tyler stood frozen behind the register, his hand still gripping the scanner gun. Except now I could see through him. Layers of Tyler stacked on top of each other, each one slightly different. One Tyler wearing his current uniform, another in street clothes, another younger, maybe 17, another old, wrinkled, a Tyler that had never existed. "What's happening?" Brenda's voice echoed from multiple directions at once. The price tag on my chest was burning, not with heat, with presence, like something acknowledging I existed for the first time in months. The barcode had been scanned, entered into the system, logged as a transaction. The store was trying to complete the sale. Around us, the mannequins appeared, all of them. 43 figures emerging from aisles and stock rooms and spaces between shelves that shouldn't have been large enough to hold them. They formed a perimeter around the registers, their faces neutral, waiting. One stepped forward, the Derek mannequin from earlier. "You can't check out," it said. "The transaction can't be completed. You have no receipt. You were never purchased. You belong to the inventory." "No," I said. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. "I'm choosing to leave. All of us are." "Where will you go?" The mannequin spread its arms, gesturing at the store. "This is what you know. This is what you are. Outside these walls, you're nothing but memory and regret. At least here, you have form, purpose." Marcus stepped up beside me. "A purpose we didn't choose. We're not mannequins. We're people who died, and instead of moving on, we got stuck in a loop of corporate protocol and supernatural bureaucracy." The mannequin tilted its head. "Moving on to what? You think there's something better waiting? You think death has an afterlife that makes more sense than this?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I'd rather find out than spend forever stocking shelves and watching televisions turn themselves on." Tyler scanned Brenda's tag. The register beeped. She gasped, clutching her chest, and I saw something change in her expression. Clarity returning to her eyes like someone waking from a dream. "I remember," she whispered. "The accident. The windshield shattering. I remember dying. I remember..." She looked down at her hands. They were fading, becoming translucent. "I remember my daughter's face. I'd forgotten her face." "Brenda!" Marcus reached for her, but his hand passed through her shoulder. She was dissolving, particles of her drifting apart like dandelion seeds. "It's okay," she said. "It's okay. I'm ready." She smiled, a real smile, not the practiced manager expression she'd worn for years. And then she was gone. Just empty air where she'd been standing, and a red polo shirt crumpled on the floor. The mannequin surged forward, not attacking, but closing in, their plastic bodies pressing against each other to form a wall between us and the register. "Stop this," the Derek mannequin demanded. "You're destroying what we've built. We are the store. The store is us. You can't separate them." "Watch me." I shoved past it, grabbed the scanner gun from Tyler's hand, and aimed it at Marcus's chest. The laser swept across his clearance tag. Beep. Marcus staggered. His face went slack, then tightened with pain, then softened into something like relief. "I had a daughter too," he said. "Emma. She was 8 when I died. Heart attack in the freezer section, October 2019. I had been working doubles for 3 months straight to afford her birthday present. She wanted a bike, a purple bike with streamers on the handles." He laughed, and it sounded genuine. "I never got to give it to her." He placed his hand on my shoulder. I could feel it. Solid, real, warm. "Thank you," he said. Then he was gone. Tyler and I stood alone among the mannequins. They had stopped advancing, frozen in place. Whatever intelligence controlled them was recalculating, processing this new development. "Your turn," I told Tyler, offering him the scanner gun. "What about you?" "I'll scan myself out. But you first. Go find whatever's waiting. Go see your roommate again. Tell him you're sorry for not coming home." Tyler took the scanner gun. His hand steadied as he aimed it at his own chest. It's going to hurt, isn't it? Remembering everything, feeling it all at once. Probably. Good. He pulled the trigger. The laser swept across his tag. Beep. He dropped to his knees, and I saw tears streaming down his face. I could have just asked for help. I could have dropped the class. I could have... He looked up at me. Don't waste it, Derek. However much time you get, wherever you end up, don't waste it on regrets. He faded slower than the others. I watched him turn transparent, watched his smile linger in the air like the Cheshire Cat, and then he was gone too. I was alone. No, not alone. The mannequins still surrounded me, and from the stockroom I heard footsteps. Tom and Janet emerged, their plastic bodies moving with purpose. They weren't running. They were walking like people who had made a decision. "We want to try," Janet said. "We've been in that cage for 4 years. If there's even a chance." I printed 2 more clearance tags and handed them over. They applied them carefully, smoothing the adhesive edges. "Together?" Tom asked. "Together." I scanned them both. 2 beeps. They held hands as they started to fade, and I heard Tom laugh, a sound of pure joy that no plastic throat should have been able to produce. "I see my wife," he said. "She's waiting. She's..." They were gone. Now I was truly alone. The mannequins had backed away, leaving space around the register. The Derek mannequin stood at the edge of the group, and I realized it wasn't trying to stop me anymore. It was just watching. "Why aren't you interfering?" I asked it. "Because you're proving something I've wondered about for a long time." It gestured at the empty spaces where my co-workers had been. "Whether any of this matters. Whether we're actually trapped or just too afraid to leave. What are you? I'm what you'll become if you stay. I'm the final stage. Consciousness completely transferred into plastic. No memory of being human. Just the store's needs and the protocols." It picked up the scanner gun from where Tyler had dropped it. "Take it. Scan yourself out. See what happens." I took the gun. My hand shook as I aimed it at my own chest, at the clearance tag that read, "Final sale." "What if there's nothing on the other side?" I asked. "Then you'll have the same nothing everyone else gets, but at least you'll have chosen it." I thought about Brenda remembering her daughter, Marcus remembering Emma and the purple bike, Tyler's roommate who never knew what happened. I thought about the customer I'd saved, who had lived while I died. 6 months of night shifts, 6 months of following rules and avoiding truths and pretending I was still alive. 6 months of existing in a liminal space between death and whatever came after. I pulled the trigger. The laser swept across the tag. The register beeped. Pain exploded through my chest, not where the bullets had hit, but everywhere. My entire body ignited with sensation I'd forgotten existed. Real pain. Real feeling. The kind of pain that meant you were alive, or had been alive, or were remembering what alive felt like. Memories flooded back. Not just April 15th, but everything before it. My ex-wife's face, our wedding, the arguments, the divorce papers, my son. God, I had a son. How had I forgotten? His first birthday, his second, the custody arrangement, the phone calls I'd missed because I was working night shifts to afford child support. I was crying. Real tears, hot and wet on my face. The store started to dissolve around me. The walls became transparent, showing the parking lot beyond, the street, the city, the world I'd forgotten existed. Polaris Parkway stretched into the distance. Cars drove past, headlights cutting through the early morning darkness. The mannequins were watching me fade. The Derek mannequin stood closest, and as I looked at it, I realized it wasn't hostile. It was envious. "Go," it said, "before the store realizes what you've done." "Come with me," I said. "Price yourself, scan out." "I can't. I'm not Derek Winters anymore. I'm just the echo of him, shaped into plastic and protocol. But you're still partially him. You can still leave." The pain intensified. My body was pulling apart, separating into component pieces. I could feel myself stretching, extending beyond the store's walls, reaching towards something bright and far away. The last thing I saw was the Derek mannequin raising its hand in farewell. Then everything went white. I heard voices, distant, muffled, like listening through water. Vitals stabilizing. 6 months in a coma. Miracle he's waking up at all. My eyelids were heavy. I forced them open. Hospital room. White ceiling. Machines beeping. The smell of disinfectant and recycled air. A nurse stood by my bed, checking an IV drip. She noticed my eyes open and smiled. "Welcome back, Mr. Winters. You've been asleep for a very long time. The doctors called it a miracle. 3 gunshot wounds to the chest, catastrophic blood loss, cardiac arrest in the ambulance. I'd been clinically dead for 4 minutes before they revived me at Riverside Methodist. Then 6 months in a coma while my body healed and my brain decided whether to come back. I remembered none of it. The robbery was a blank space in my memory. One moment I was restocking shelves. The next, I was waking up in a hospital bed with my ex-wife crying at my side and my son holding my hand. "You're going to be okay," Sarah told me. "You're going to be fine." Physical therapy took 3 months. Learning to walk again, to use my arms without pain, to breathe without feeling like my chest was tearing open. The doctors said I was lucky. The bullets had missed my heart by centimeters. Target's corporate office was sympathetic. Full medical coverage, disability pay, and when I was ready to return to work, they offered me a transfer. Not to Polaris. Too many bad memories, they said. But to the Easton location on the other side of Columbus. Day shift only. Better hours, better pay. I took it. I needed the routine. Needed to feel normal again. My son needed the child support payments to continue. My first day back was October 3rd. Morning shift, 8 a.m. start time. The Easton store was newer, brighter, busier than Polaris. More foot traffic, more registers, more employees. I barely recognized it as the same company. They assigned me to electronics. Easy work, they said. Minimal lifting. Just help customers find what they need. I clocked in and walked onto the sales floor. That's when I saw it. Near the entrance, positioned between the shopping carts and the customer service desk, stood a mannequin I didn't recognize. It wore a red Target polo shirt and khakis. A name tag was pinned to its chest. Derek. The face was wrong. Not generically wrong. Specifically wrong. It had my features, my nose, my jawline, my eyebrows. Someone had sculpted a mannequin to look exactly like me, down to the small scar on my left cheek from a childhood bicycle accident. And it was posed with one arm raised, hand extended, like it was waving hello. I approached slowly. Other employees passed by without looking at it. Just another display, just another piece of store furniture. But I couldn't look away. The eyes were painted hazel. My eye color. The hair was molded to match my cut. Even the polo shirt had a coffee stain on the collar, exactly where mine always did. I reached out to touch it, to confirm it was really there, really plastic. The hand was warm. My manager, a woman named Rita Kowalski, appeared beside me. "Oh, you noticed our new greeter," she said cheerfully. "Corporate sent it over from the Polaris location. Some kind of experimental customer service initiative. Mannequins that look like real employees to make customers feel more welcome. Weird, right? When did it arrive? Last night. Overnight crew set it up before we opened. She checked her tablet. Actually, that's strange. There's no work order for it. No shipping manifest. It's not in our inventory system at all. A family walked past us toward the entrance. As they approached, the mannequin's head turned slightly, just a few degrees, to face them. I heard Rita gasp beside me. Did that thing just move? I finished. The mannequin's plastic features remained neutral, its arms still raised in greeting. But I could see something in those painted eyes now. Something that recognized me. The store's overhead speakers crackled to life. Derek Winters to the stockroom, please. Derek Winters to the stockroom. Rita frowned. We don't page people on their first day. Who's calling you? I didn't answer. I was staring at the mannequin, at my own face frozen in plastic, at the hand waving hello, at the smile that was spreading across its features, widening impossibly, teeth multiplying behind its lips. Derek? Rita touched my shoulder. Are you okay? You look pale. The PA system crackled again. Derek Winters, welcome back. We have your name tag ready. I turned and ran toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Rita calling my name, heard other employees asking what was wrong. But I didn't stop until I was in the parking lot, gasping for air, my chest aching where the bullets had torn through months ago. I looked back at the store entrance through the glass doors. The mannequin was gone from its spot. And somewhere inside, in the aisles between products and customers and fluorescent lights, I heard footsteps following me. Plastic feet scraping against tile, coming closer,